have no work.
And it was just town. I haven't heard it.
That's terrible.
Oh, he was all panicked. Told you, on his empty here. All right, everyone, it's 6:31 and I call this order. Welcome all the guests that are here. I'd like to thank Brad and his team for a job well done with the outages that occurred during the storms and the relentless wind on December the 10th and 11th. So thank you very much. All right, so we'll start out with the approval of the agenda.
Steve, can I make a suggestion, make one change? Item 6, budget approval. Can we just change that to budget review based on answers given that I think we just have more, I know I have more specific questions before giving approval. I didn't know if we could change that to a review instead of approval.
Would you be okay with review/approval?
Got several questions too, so I don't.
Well, and I think that's the point of.
Yeah, but I think we need to think about it. That's what I would like. I would like to review our questions and then as a board, discuss them.
And that's fine. As I said, if we get approval out of it or parts of it, that would be great. Okay,
The other thing I'd like to add is a line item for the consultant subcommittee 1-6. And I just want to volunteer. And not, if they talked the other day about having 4 people on that subcommittee.
right.
And I think you and Jason have already done some work for legal counsel.
That's correct. I kind of thought we were going to go over that in executive. That was my plan. We have an executive session and I think we're just going to kind of.
But can we go ahead and form the subcommittee for the consultants for the policy?
But potentially, I mean, I think as we talk through it, if that's really what the consensus of the board is, that, which kind of talked about it, correct? So,
But it's a policy. I guess that's where I'm not gonna fall in. So, okay.
approve that agenda with changes.
The changes, I'll make a motion.
Do it first. Second. Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. All right. Sandy, you busted to. So.
Yeah. Sat down today and tried to type something out, so, but I just have a couple comments, about some of the summary that was in the board's August meeting notes. And I apologize for not being at the last meeting. I'm pretty sure I was standing at the end of an auger. I could have done it then. I just would really like for the members to know that the nominating committee is just not a group of bad people. I struggle with this kind of stuff. I've sat in this room in meetings and had fingers pointed at me and had some horrible things said about the nominating committee as a whole. And I struggle with that. We were elected by the members to do a job. We're pretty passionate about that. And it's like I read this, I threw the magazine at my husband and said, read this. And that's cleaned up because there are kids in here. No, it's cleaned up out of respect for you guys too. But we just want to do our job. And that's what I want the members to know. And we want to do our job correctly. I don't disagree with what has come out of our meetings. After we met with the company and they went through all the voting policy progresses, the way they do it, I think it's great. But I hope that the one comment in here that really, I hope the board will, if we have an issue, will at least be receptive to the nominating committee if we have something that we need to bring to you. I like the videos, I like the online, everything traffic technology. And that's what this whole process is about this voting. Everything has progressed with technology. But I struggle with this lingering thought and attitude about the nominating committee. And I wanted you guys to know that. And I don't know why this late in the game, this stuff came out at a meeting. But that's what I wanted to say tonight. We want to work with you. We want to be a part of the co-op. We are a part of the co-op. We're all members. I just felt like something needed to be said. And then I have one more request. The year that I was elected, we had asked for a meeting with the board to bring the new members up to speed on how everything works, timelines, when we start looking for nominees out of our districts and things like that. And we've had another election since then. We've not had that meeting. If we could have that meeting, I happened to casual acquaintance with or casual meeting with another newly elected member, and everybody, they feel like that would be a good thing. Let us know this district when we need to find our nominees, what kind of a timeline we have to do that, how they go about it. They would just like to be brought up to speed on all of that, on our official duties, and we want to do it right and do a good job. That's all I got.
Thank you, Sandy.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, we need to previous meeting minutes and
I've got concerns. I thought we were tabulating the ballots the day of the election.
I think these were just recommendations.
But I think we were pretty adamant that the ballots would be counted the same day as the meeting.
This isn't I don't think what Brian documented here was a decision, right? This was just the presentation was given for these. But no, I completely agree. We've already gotten consent from them that it's the day of.
Yeah.
So what I would suggest when we approve that budget, Jeff, maybe we call those specific things out. Or at least for the meeting minutes. But they can do it. We know that for a fact. Anything else anybody see?
Well, because we said one side too, and that's also on here.
Right.
So we're gonna handle that in the budget deal. So
Okay. do we need to take it out of the minutes then so it's not confusing?
But we did. This is the action we took.
And I'm fine
Fine.
with that.
I mean, that is the action.
That's what it was. Yeah, that's what it was.
But we know now that we're.
Right. There'll be an update.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Let's find out.
Okay. We have a first. Tracy. Okay. Oh, yeah, that was you, correct? I second. All in favor of the minutes? Aye. Those saying. Right, thank you. For your information.
On the plant investments, are those up-to-date numbers? Thank you.
I think that's, I sat and spent a lot of time with Chris and Pat. I think that's about where it's gonna fall out.
Thank you very much.
I had a couple of questions on the check, Brad, this year. Somebody else got come. 23. Yeah, you coaching?
Yeah, that's all employee training that we did that was one of the outputs of our employee survey was to do all employee trainings. That's what it is. Did the name catch you?
Well, the dollar amount caught me first.
Yep, that's.
A day, Brad?
No, so it's a
Series, is it?
it's a series and then there's one-on-ones in it too. So some of it will spill over, but we went ahead and had her go ahead and invoice us for the rest or for all of it this year.
So does that amount cover an annual period of time or?
It's a one-time training that we're doing. It just has a series.
And what would that be under the budget? Whose budget would that fall under?
It's under A and G. Check. I think it's under A and G home employee. I can follow up and find out exactly. We just got split up. It got split up. I can get you the exact dollars in each.
Employee training.
Yep.
How do we get that to be part of the budget? Because that's pretty substantial.
Well, I think we're within budget on all of our trainings for last year.
That's not what I asked. How do we get definition of, again, that is substantial.
It is. So what we typically do is we come up with what all trainings we think we're gonna do, whether it's all employee training, because there is every year we do a certain amount of all employee training, and this was the one that we wanted to do as an output of our survey, which was, it's like energy leadership training. I don't know if you have anything to add. It is definitely a series. She's been here a couple times and there's going to be a couple more times that she comes next year. And then there's some one-on-one. We actually did we all did an assessment, her first one. She was actually here was it Friday? Friday.
But all of those visits are included in that fee.
Right.
Actually over like a 4-month period.
And is that for all employees?
It was offered to everyone, but not everyone took us up on it.
Do you know how many employees, if you divide that out, just out of curiosity, how many, which would be per employee?
I can give
There's 15 employees that are
for
partaking.
15 that are in it.
Yes. 15, yes. And basically, the reason that we did it was because our employee survey was so kind of crummy on the morale side of things. And so we had reached out to her to kind of see what she thought we could do. And so this is a new program that she's been doing. She's done a program at MISO, at Hendricks Power, a lot of co-ops in Indiana. And basically what we're trying to do is interact one-on-one with the employees so that we can kind of figure out how people are showing up. So everybody can kind of come to work and be their best self and not so much bringing in all the negativity. And when they get here, if something kind of throws them off, like basically it's like energy levels. Are you showing up? If you're a level 1 and you're showing up, you're probably putting off a bad vibe to everybody. And you're going to make everybody be in a bad mood because you're grumpy and you're not being very interactive. But maybe I come to work and I'm super excited because I had a great day and I woke up early and I'm operating up here at this level. Well, if people are interacting with me, then they're going to have a positive attitude and they're going to want to, be motivated and get their work done. So it's kind of like trying to figure out how people are and why are they showing up the way that they are. So we've done 2 group sessions where all 15 people are in that group. And then we've all done an assessment to kind of see where we are at. And then where we came together as a collective company. And the results are basically that 15 people that are involved are showing up in the 3 to 4 range every single day, which is not great. You don't want all of your workers to come into work every day and be down on that very low level. You want people to be coming in throughout the day, and it's going to change. Obviously, if I'm coming in and I'm happy, but then something, you get a bad customer complaint and then you're going to be down. Yeah. But then, okay, how do I turn that back around and come back up here to where I'm operating, at a more positive level? So we're through that part of it. Now we are doing one-on-one sessions. So all 15 people get 4 individual one-on-one sessions to where they get to work with her specifically from their assessment. And so that they can kind of decide what kind of a plan do they need to be on to show up to work and be positive. Then once we're through that, I think that ends in March, end of March, beginning of April, they'll come back in and we'll kind of do like a staff training. And then all of the staff will get together and kind of try to figure out all of our energies. And then we just do a wrap up. And at that point, the employees can have the opportunity to continue with her if they want on their own. I personally worked with her on my own about 3 years ago. I did a 6-month session with her, just not work related at all. And she's very good at what she does. So we felt like it was a good opportunity. And because of the outcome from that survey, it's a benefit to the employees. So that's why we all had some extra dollars in our training budget. So we just went ahead and did it for this year so that we could get her booked and get started on helping to build the employee morale.
Crystal, how long are those individual sessions that you?
They're 30 minutes. So the first one that we will have in January to go over your assessment is an hour, but then the individual 4 sessions are 30 minutes apiece. It's a very organized program, and we really hope that the employees will get a lot out of it. And I know my specific employees are very excited about it. So hopefully.
Like you said, you had a couple questions about the register. Were there others?
That was the one big one, I guess I was curious of. Thanks, but I'm.
I'm gonna mute that. Big drink.
Like, I noticed there was like 4 checks going to, I don't know how you pronounce this one, tree experts or for the same amount the whole time. Explain to me how that,
That's for the, so our hot spotting crew is who we use Ashland for. So it's our tree ticket. It's a set price. We have one crew, 2 men, 1 crew that does all of our tree tickets and hot spotting. So it's the same amount every week.
whether they do 2 trees or.
It's not a bid. It's not a bid, it's time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And the reason is, Clay, is because you don't know how many trees you're getting, where they're at. And you're finding.
I didn't know how that was set up. And if it was the same amount come through every time.
Every week.
Okay.
They don't do it weekly, but it's the same cost.
Yeah, you just get, I got you. You're set up on a payment of weekly.
Other questions? Anybody have? Good. We good? All right. Let's talk about the budget. Now that, Brad, we had created a list and you've gone through that list. So out of that list, do we have additional questions?
I think I talked to Brian today because I wanted to get his input. I think needs to be a lot more detail, and maybe we need to give more detail to Brett on what our expectations were.
Yep. Specifics associated with that. I mean, as you read the responses.
I think that's part of our executive discussion. Is part of it. Overall, I just have major concerns with the financials being that far off of what they actually are.
Dan, did you have any specific? I know you talked about.
I do, and I know it's marked confidential, so I don't know if we're supposed to say the dollar amounts or just question the dollar amounts. So that's why I was concerned about, portraying the actual amounts because they are marked confidential. I know the email's not, but the items I did are all marked confidential, so I don't want to get myself in any issues by stating those amounts. I did have some questions on. That's kind of where I am on that part of it. And I do think maybe we came up with a list, which maybe I was thinking more, in your mind, you're thinking more details needed, other than just attached to email or location on the dashboard. There were just some specifics. Like when example, the maintenance costs, the breakdown under A and G, I had some specifics regarding each of those, or if there were quotes sent out, especially the cleaning part amount. The general labor and the cost of that per hour, if that fall under, or better to quote out or replace that with another employee for the amount that it's costing for the cleaning. You probably can't discuss exact dollar amounts because it's all marked confidential. Is that correct?
I think I can answer some of that, Suzanne, honestly. So the mowing, yeah, we quoted it out to 3 different mowing companies. General labor. So what we did in general labor's what Norm used to do, right? So just stuff and maintenance in the building. So what we did is we took just an average, what we thought, if we have a plumber come in, it's going to be 1 hour cost, where if we have someone come in and do something that may not be as specialized, it's probably a little bit less. But what we try to do is how many hours did he spend per month, working on those general maintenance, and those are the hours that we came up with. Well, that $80 per hour, honestly, that's kind of the average of what we thought it would take to keep maintenance going on the building, because we won't have, that individual employee. So that's where that came from. The cleaning 3 times a week, we quoted that out to 4 different companies. One of those did not quote or did not come back with a quote, but those are all quoted real cost. Window cleaning, same thing. But I can share, if we go into executive session, that there is a good size savings from not replacing and backfilling and going to these. Yeah, we think, but according to the quotes, there's a good size savings by doing this. That's why we didn't backfill the position.
I guess of the 4 items bullet pointed, the cleaning amount was one I was just
Yeah, I was too.
really questioning.
So what you just said, you guys suspect that it would be better to go this route than to build that.
Yeah.
But were we paying him
Yeah.
prior? I mean, that's the specifics I can't really discuss. I can imagine that his payroll was that much.
I can go over those exact
You
numbers.
add up that total as a 1-person salary, that's a significant salary compared to the average income around this area. That would be significant. And I don't know what he was making, but that would be a significant higher than prior.
I've got the business case that we can go over once we get an executive session.
That, and then I guess there was item number 7 regarding the new position. The morale issue is one thing, but just, I guess, the specific role and responsibilities of that. And if there's some other email attached that I did not receive, I guess I just had 2 bullet points under that.
Yeah, we can talk through that, definitely.
So let's go back to the first page. We talked about right of way. I saw the quotes on there. Number 2 was the building, the design deal. I'm assuming that there were, I think what we were asking for was in the design portion of that there were bids for that. Or did I misunderstand what the board was asking for? Can someone help me with that?
I think that was, when we discussed it, I think that was what our ask really was, because we don't know if we just got the 1 bid or if there were multiple.
These are all budgetary estimates. They're not quotes. Everything that we ask. I completely agree that once we go out and basically say, okay, give us a estimate of what you think this is going to cost. We put it in the budget, we get approval for the budget, and then you go out and bid it.
So that's going to be number 3 also. If we approve the idea that we're going to do that project, then you're going to go out and get the 3.
Or you could just take them out of the budget. We'll get to the point where we can pre-bid them. If you guys say we support this, go get them bidded. We can all spend our time on it. We'll go bid the projects and come back to you and say, here's 3, 4 bids. It could be an approval after the budget. And we could get approval after the budget. That's not a problem at all.
Right. We were not declining or saying no. We were just saying more information is needed prior to putting it in the budget and just checking it off the list.
Yep.
It's kind of what communicate, right?
I think we were all supporting those 2 issues.
Supporting the idea, but just not the amount being supported in that amount in the budget.
Yeah.
Until more details are with.
And what we could do, or what I would recommend you do, is remove dollars, but keep the support right in there. In other words, we can put it in the narrative that you support doing it. Do what?
Remove the dollars, keep the idea.
Correct.
So we know what the dollar.
And then we'll just piecemeal it in, Clay. We'll bring it to you and say, hey, we're ready. The building thing is a tough one because you're going to want to put together a statement, and I'm sure Dale can explain this probably better than I can, but there's all kinds of different options of what you could do back there. And that could be, those actual quotes or bids could look completely different compared to what you do. Whether you do a rebuild back there or you just, use some of the infrastructure. So what we could do is go ahead, if you guys support the idea, we'll go ahead and build the committee, right? Build the committee, go through what options we think, and then we can take, hey, here's 5 options we want from a design standpoint for this company, and this company to bid. Then they can come back and say, well, here's what it's going to cost to design those 3 or 4 options. As long as you support those and we're going to put time and effort into it, you don't have to approve the dollars, just the idea.
Is this where it's going forward on?
Correct.
So let's move on to number 4. I saw your response on the email, but for some reason, I feel like I need a little more clarity on that.
I have a presentation if you guys want to go through that real quick, just to explain. It's a hard concept to try to go over in an email. So I put it together. You want to see that?
I'm just, okay.
Let's do it. Never.
So it would be helpful if you go back to, actually, you can just go on this month's, pull up the plan investment. It's the second worksheet. You know what I'm talking about? So for this month, go to under K, it's the second one. Yeah. Yep. So what we're trying to do here is for the question was asked about new services and I think security lights, but it's bigger than that, right? So it includes all 3 of these separate line items in the CapEx budget. Number 1, remember CapEx for these 3 things are controllable. If a member calls in and says, I want a new service, if it isn't in budget, we still have to do it, right? None of these are what I would consider controllable. So what we're trying to do is use the best data we've got to be able to put something in the budget that's representative. But we can't put a number in there and say, okay, this is your number, Brett. And then someone call in, if we're over that number and someone call in and say, I need a new service. You can't say, well, I'm sorry, you have to wait till 2023, right? So that's what I mean by these are uncontrollable. Great. So for the 2022 budget, we wanted to do a few things in these categories that we've not done in the past. And of course, the question I'd be asking is why, right? So in the past, we've always had that line item in there, and you guys can see it on actually this month's where we have pole replacements ready, right? And the idea, I think originally, and this predates me, but I think the idea originally was how many poles are we replacing? So what we did is we create this blanket work order, right? So the idea is when some pole gets replaced, that it goes to this blanket work order so that we can track it on this spreadsheet over here. In actuality, the way our accounting system works is it doesn't work that way. So, and it wouldn't make sense to really do it that way. So if Dale asks for a service upgrade and we have to replace one of the poles as a part of that service upgrade, today you'd put it in this, you would try to make sure that the guys get it underneath this pole replacement regular work order. That's a blanket work order. It makes no sense to do it that way because we really want those pole replacement costs to follow the actual work order for Dale. So if Dale says, hey, I'm doing a service upgrade, we have to replace a pole, that per our accounting guidelines, that pole really needs to go into the work order. That's Dale's job, right? So again, we're trying to eliminate this blanket work order. It's a very manual process, and it's hard to get good numbers around because that's not how our accounting system's set up. So that's the first thing. Second thing is we did a policy change. As you guys all know, we utilize age facility credits for member initiated projects. So line extensions, beautifications are good examples. You guys updated that policy. That's going to shift more cost to the RMC, right? So we all know that when we give someone a credit for poles being replaced, that cost is shifting somewhere. So this means that we're going to have to pick up more of that cost to replace the existing plant than we have in the past. And then the third thing is the National Electric Safety Code talks about aged facility and an aged pole. So if you're doing something to a pole that's aged, and you're putting new strains and stresses on that pole, is you have to be able to prove that that pole is at 2/3 strength. If you can't prove that it's at 2/3 strength, per the National Safety Committee or National Electric Safety Code, you have to replace that pole. Most RMCs use that 10-year mark because it's hard to prove 2/3 strength, right? I don't even know how you would do it. So most RMCs will use 10 years. So if we're changing the pole's stresses and strains, in other words, let's say we're going a different direction with it, or we're putting a transformer on it, and that pole's at a certain age, those would be replaced. Most co-ops are doing, or most utilities do about a 10-year. We do anywhere between, we start looking at it at 10, but we probably won't replace it until it's closer to 20, if it's got new stresses and strains. Again, I think in the past, there hasn't been a lot of focus around, do you do this or not? And now all co-ops and all utilities are making sure that they can prove that we meet that piece of the code. So those are the three changes. So number one, you're moving dollars from one part of the budget into another, and then you're adding some of this extras that we just talked about. So to clarify a little bit is where I add this chart, right? So this is the average cost over a 7-year average. So there's the 4 different categories. We literally go into our system and we say, okay, how much cost was there on average per year over the last 7 years? That's these costs right here. They all add up to this 801, right? So we took the 7-year average 801, that's this category right here. So then what we had to do is calculate, okay, these new poles that aren't in the budget that we know we're going to have to spend money on, and the pole replacements regular that's in the budget, we're going to move into. So, because in all actuality, if you look at, again, what you're looking at today, pole replacements regular, those are created because of these 3 categories, right? If Carl calls in and says, I got a service upgrade and it requires a pole replacement, it needs to go into that bucket. So there's dollars that need to be added into the budget to pick up for what's in the spreadsheet today, how we do it. So you have to come up with an allocation factor. And what we did is for each category, we took the total dollars and divided it by the total and came up with what we kind of considered allocation factors. Then what we did is to try to estimate, okay, what percentages of pole replacements per line item are we going to go with? We looked at our average work orders per year is about 270. So if you look at the past 7 years, we create on average 270 work orders that fall under these categories. If you assume one pole to be replaced, and again, this is an assumption we made, one pole to be replaced per work order, you take 270 times 1, you multiply it by $3,000 average cost, it gives you this 810, right? We know some work orders are going to have 5 poles replaced. We know some work orders are going to have 0. So what we tried to do is come up with a number that we thought was relevant, which is that 1. So then all you do is we got the 810 number, it goes down here below, you multiply that times the allocation factor, and it gives you this additional pole replacement number over here. You add the 7-year average to this, it gives you this number over here. That's how we got the 1.6. So again, all we're trying to do is take one line item from the budget, put it into where it's supposed to go. So we're just reshifting dollars. And then we're adding some dollars due to we changed the policy and the National Electric Safety Code. Again, it was a theory Chris put together that I felt like makes a lot of sense, but in all actuality, this is a guess based upon past history.
Just based on this year. I guess this is where I'm struggling, and this is where I want to have actual numbers to make good decisions. In the LE, we're going to spend $148,745 on regular pole replacement, but we're budgeting $419,275.
Let me go back to the budget.
That's less than 3 times what we spent this year.
So this number right here is what you're looking at?
The very top one, those 7
For
additional pole replacements.
No, the 22 budget's 834.
No, I'm just talking the pole replacements. Line C, you're adding in $419,000. And all we spent this year was $148,000.
Some of those are in the pole. That's the problem with it.
again, those are where I really struggle with those kind of numbers. They just don't add up.
Focusing on what we tried to do here is we took the actual data from the system to come up with these numbers. These are guesses at best. It's a theory of how you come up with it.
So work order cost you at an average of 3,000. So some of them might be 500, the other one might be 6,000.
It could spread as much as 500 to 10,000. Depending on what type of pool you're talking about.
Not for new services.
No, he's just talking about this 300 or this 3,000. You guys realize all these costs are just placeholders, right? They are what they were going to end up being. New services is new services. We always talk about this, right? We're not going to tell people that, sorry, we're over budget, you can't have a new service or security light or any of these. There are costs that are going to show up. This is our best estimate of where we think they're going to be with the reshuffling that we're doing. Oops.
I guess my confusion comes with the plant investments right now, the LE compared to budget compared to those numbers. They're so far different. Those amounts are so increased compared to what we've actually spent so far.
We agree.
I mean, that's a huge difference. I guess that's where I'm struggling to comprehend the enormous increase compared to what we actually have spent this year.
So this year we have budgeted service upgrades of 61,000, but the LE is 240. So we're way under budgeted in service upgrades, which is what this is trying to reflect, is the idea that if they come out to your house, when they say you, I don't know, for example, you add something that's going to be, they're going to have to add a bigger transformer at your house. Well, the pole that your current transformer is on may not be up to snuff, and they have to change that out. And that's the idea, is to try to, from what I understand, the way Chris explained it to me, the idea is to have the poles, instead of trying to pull that pole out separate on the work order when it actually relates to the upgrade of the service at that house.
Right.
It's to put that pole with that service upgrade. So that way it's all in the same place.
So if you got a pole that's 9 years old, it ain't gonna affect, or it's gonna be affected by a different size transformer. Does that pole get reused into a line?
That 9 years we wouldn't change.
He's saying,
I'm saying if the pole didn't qualify to strength, whatever, to hold a new transformer as big or whatever. So we're pulling that pole out. Where does it go?
It depends. I mean, if it comes out and it's good and we can reuse it, we'll reuse it. We have a whole stack of things like that back there that we do reuse. It depends, to answer your
So
question.
does that,
if it's 35 years old, it's probably getting chopped up and people.
Correct.
I understand that, but does that get taken?
It's still in our plant.
It would.
Again, all we're trying to do is come up with numbers that we think are placeholders for what is going to end up.
Not write checks for these dollar amounts January 10th.
No,
This is exactly what you just said. This is a guess of what it could cost. If it doesn't cost this much, we're not spending this
if
money.
construction runs all wild in Decatur County next year, these probably.
You've got to put something in there.
Construction grinds to a
But
halt.
we're not,
Prices high.
we're not writing checks for this. We're not ordering trucks, this is.
No, if new services are, if all of a sudden our new services go way, way down, then no, the numbers are what you have.
That's what it is. I mean,
It's
it
uncontrollable.
really doesn't matter.
I just,
I agree with you.
comparing to years past, the amount of increase this year on those 4 items is significant. That's what I'm
That though.
But again, if they don't have to spend it, they're not going to spend it. So-
true. I was just trying to figure out the calculation of why it's so much higher.
Well, it's
If
that.
it's a new service, it's going to be a new service, whether it's in the budget or not.
70 poles.
It's this right here. That's what's driving the 810,000.
If it's a new service, it's going to get paid for no matter what. It's just the amount that's budgeted increase so much higher is so significant in years past.
Well, it is, it's 7 years of experience, so it's not as though it's just a very narrow window.
But that 270 polls wasn't for new services.
No, it's for all these. Correct. That's why you had to create the allocation factor. You're exactly right. These 270 work orders were for these types of work that from an actual past history equates into this.
Yeah,
what we're coming
but
up
we should be able to see how many poles we used. What was used to replace red tag poles.
Not in our system very clearly, no. It's a manual process.
So that would be a lot more accurate. And
What we're saying is instead of having a line item right here that says pole replacements and there's a blanket work order, that makes absolutely no sense. What we want is the actual pole replacements to be documented in whatever category here is driving it.
Jeff, your question that you were just on, is your issue with the number of the 270 or the average cost per, or both?
both, it just seems very excessive. Very excessive.
And then that, I mean, again, we're not writing checks for this, right?
It does, we're looking at a budget and it's talking about borrowing $3.2 million. And I don't see that we're going to need close to that. And that's why again, my personal feelings, these are numbers that are extremely exaggerated.
And the more and
We
more.
talked about that too, though, that borrow figure
Correct.
is a moving target. That's,
But again,
if we don't need it, we're not gonna.
but it shouldn't even be, we went from 1.2 to 3.2 in a week. That makes no sense.
But we did discuss that, what happened there, right?
It still makes no sense. And that's why I truly believe we need to wait 3 weeks, go off of actuals and start this whole process over. I am not comfortable even talking about borrowing $3.2 million based on what I see in our work plan.
I would take that borrow out until we get closer to time.
I mean, our whole work plan should match up. You know, like Clay said, we're guessing 3 months and we're plugging in numbers, and this is the most uncomfortable budget I have seen since I've been on the board.
So you do realize though that none of it's timing. So all those jobs that got pushed out because of materials, honestly, I mean, that's 90% of it, right? It's materials and then how we don't approve a budget until December, which means you don't get started with PSE to even start bidding it until 6 months in, just to get all the contracts aligned.
But that's what we approved the money for in September, so we could be.
Correct. But
Months
we
ahead.
didn't do it for this last year is my point. So why we are where we are today is because we didn't approve it in enough time. But I guess my point is it doesn't matter. It's all timing. So we're going to end up doing the projects have already started in Sardinia and they've already started over here on the G1. So as soon as those we would have loved to have seen those get done at the end of this year. They would have all came in. We've already paid them and we already know exactly what that is. That doesn't mean they're not going to get done. They're just getting shoved until next year, the beginning of next year. I mean, they're already working. So in other words, what we are estimating to spend in CapEx, not this, what we're estimating to spend in CapEx for our construction work plan project isn't going to change in 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. It's the same amount of projects. It's just the timing of when we're going to get invoiced. It's the only difference.
So what keeps us from having agreeing on a certain dollar amount, having a special board meeting if things get in excess of X amount of dollars to cover things? So instead of, if I'm, X amount of dollars is what we think it'll take, it could take more. If it run out of this budget, we needed, figure out we need some extra money to do this, why can't there be a special board meeting to go over some more, money needed to throw into the budget?
Are you talking about like when we run out then or?
Instead of coming up with 3.2 million to do this, like we're talking about, we figure out we're get closer on a number instead of a guesstimate. And if we get closer on that, get something in the budget now. And if we exceed that, if we run out of that money, give us an opportunity to have a special board meeting to approve more money based on where we're at that time.
So you're saying just,
But I think that's what we're talking about, the borrow, right? Because the only place we're gonna go and get money is we're gonna borrow if we run out, right?
Yeah, but limit the dollar amount.
Well,
And all I'm saying is keep it at a certain amount. So
these all right here.
we're talking
Getting,
about something different.
I'm
I'm not following you. I guess.
You keep saying keep it at a certain amount. I'm not sure I'm following either. What are you suggesting? Keep it a certain amount. And
Certain things here, the dollar amount that they're looking at, I'm seeing the 1.6 up here on the screen. Just for this project, we're estimating.
No, this is all new. These are all uncontrollable things that are going to happen there all year long. We're going to have members call in and say, I want a new service. I need a service upgrade. All this is right here is an estimate of what we think is going to.
based on 7 years of activity, right?
Correct.
Haven't spent. This has nothing to do with our work plan.
How easy is it to get the information for the 7 years?
Yeah, right here.
Were you referring to individual years?
Yeah. And I don't know. I made the comment earlier. I mean, to me, 7 years is a reasonable period of time. It's not like you're taking 1 or 2 years and it's an anomaly where you got here and here and you're getting the average. 7 years is a period of time to get a sense of representative numbers.
Yeah. That's part of it. I mean, the two things here is we're going to have to replace poles that historically we haven't done. So that's going to be an increase in cost, right? But then we're also moving this regular pole replacement line item up into these numbers.
Yeah, you're instead of having a fifth line that's pole replacements and there's an amount over there, you're redistributing the 810 based on that methodology to those other 4 categories.
So it's about $500,000 increase is what you would come up with, right? Because this is the average without the regular pole replacements. So that's 801. You add in the regular pole replacements. It's about a $500,000 more is what we're estimating on having to replace poles that we may have not replaced in the past, and based upon electric safety code. And 2, we're gonna have to pick up more costs because we changed the policy. That's really what the increase is. So when we specify like, this is way over what we typically are, it's about $500,000.
It's 518, basically 518,000 if you just take out the polls more than last year. So if we reduce that by 500,000, that would get us to, I kind of understand if I'm reading between the lines what Clay's saying, put a number in there that we feel confident in. And if we're not going to deny new service.
We can put in numbers.
Put those numbers to the extreme increase with our REMC money just is eye-opening.
But we won't spend it if you can't. If a new service if no one calls us on new services, I can't go spend the money. It's irrelevant.
I think from my standpoint, I need a lot more information from the plan improvements, plan projects, plan investments.
What do you need?
I need to study it some more.
I can get you the data around this too, Jeff. This is just a
I would like that.
very high level look at it. But these are irrelevant.
So Brett, I'm just setting up the pole replacement, regular catch-up and meter pole replacement numbers come to 518,000 and those numbers are within those numbers. Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
So if you just take the 518,000 off that 1.6, that gets basically the pole replacement. So that was 1.1 million.
Yeah.
It's not going to be an outlandish.
The catch-up should come out. Because we should be done after this year.
What's it labeled as in this new budget? I don't even know. So you have that new budget. That's it right there.
In investments, we have regular and catch-up. Those are the ones that are adding plus the replacement.
It says P past years.
Right. Yeah, PY rejects.
So that's the ones that were rejected, Jeff, for 2021.
Where's that at?
It's in your, go back. I don't have the budget up. Go back to the actual budget.
Okay.
2022.
Go to the 2022 budget, plant investments.
I was on the actual numbers.
Yeah, see that, and it's.
That 30 grand is the meter poles, and then the line item right underneath of it. That's based upon a real number, right?
Actually, funny, the combination of those.
Right.
Those two items.
best guess.
Yeah.
You can put whatever number it's just.
We can put it in here wherever you want, keep it irrelevant.
Some of this stuff. I mean, some of this should kind of. Because
But
some
these
things
here-
are gonna be what they're gonna do. Some things gonna be different.
No, you're fine.
No,
No, you're fine.
But that's what I'm saying.
Put $10 in there.
Yeah, this is a best guess as to how many new services and how much stuff.
Yeah, but we only spent 88. Right.
Are there items aware of like,
And
or, you know, X, Y, and Z subdivisions and things like that? Is that taking, are those amounts pretty solid of which the numbers are, or are those still a guesstimate?
These are based upon 7 years of history.
No, the budget. Are those based on new services that you're already aware of?
No, these are all based on 7 years history.
It's just based on, it's a projection based on the last
I'm
step.
curious if you have new services coming up that you increase that number to.
I like, is the concept okay? Does everybody agree with the concept? I think I'm hearing that the amount is more the issue. The concept is okay. Because as I understand it, anybody jump in and challenge or correct or agree or whatever the case is. I mean, any of these services, we're not going to deny any of that happening. All we're saying right here is that based on the last 7 years of information, last 7 years of actual information, this is the best guess as to what we can anticipate this year. It's not allocating the money, it's not spending the money. It's just from a budgetary standpoint, saying here's what it is. If the $1.6 million is the heartburn, not the concept, then if we need to reduce the $1.6 million, I'm not opposed to reducing the $1.6 million. I think we may be underestimating what the amount's going to be, but the concept, even if that's $1 million, if we end up spending $1.6 million, we're going to spend $1.6 million.
If it's $2 million, you're gonna end up spending.
no, man, I'm not arguing.
It's $20.
And that's why I say if it's the amount or the concept, and
This isn't a project.
if we have questions, we need to, let's get more information.
Again, I think Chris came up with a really good way of doing this. You know, we could sit here, probably the better argument is we had 270 work orders. We're estimating 1 pole replacement per work order, right? I don't know. That could be 2, that could be 3, that could be a half. I mean, we're just using our best judgment to try to figure out what that is. We're going to learn more this year. But again, it doesn't really,
So why can't we go back and capture that data for this past year?
capture what data?
Number of poles purchased.
The number of poles. What do you mean?
How many poles did we supply to the contractors?
That's a completely different.
No, but I'm just trying to get back to how many poles did we truly set ourselves this year? There should be.
We don't know because we have a blanket work order.
There should be data that shows that, Brett.
No,
Well,
that's why we're trying to do this right here. It's exactly why we're trying to do this, so that we can put the poor replacements in this service category that.
there has to be a way to go back and find out how many poles we installed this past
I mean, we could go through probably and figure out exactly.
I mean-
But it wouldn't be pole replacements from the rejected poles.
year. No, that's what I'm saying, but I know didn't we supply?
You're asking for total poles we purchased for the year, more or less.
But subtract out anything that we supplied to the contractor because they were in tight need of, we supplied them poles because they were short of what we were
We
told.
should be able to go through each work order and figure
It
out.
shouldn't be that hard.
It's not easy because
The vendor
you
you
don't
buy-
do it like this. That's why we're trying to go to this.
Who's the vendor you buy them from?
I mean, it's all over the place.
So there's multiple vendors that we buy poles from.
But why would 1 year's data be better than 7? I know, well, we spend so much time.
That's a nice number.
I mean, because it's just a number. It's just a.
Well, but I can't support it, Jason. So
That's okay.
where I'm at, and so we can go forward.
All right.
I guess, what are you gonna gain by knowing exactly how many poles we bought for the year? I guess, what are you looking
To truly know,
know better?
I want to have an accurate budget. For the last 4 years, we have not.
Okay,
I disagree with that.
And you're allowed to disagree, and I will stop making comments, but I cannot support this budget the way it was presented to the board. That's my thing.
What number do you want here?
I guess, what exactly are you going for? So I know where to look and what.
No, I want actual numbers. I want,
I can't
These
give
are
you
7
actual
years.
numbers for this. This is a best guess for next year.
and that scares me, is doing best guess. That, it really does.
I mean, that's what every budget is the best
It's the
guess.
best guess. But it's an estimate.
There's based on actual data.
It's based on 7 years of actual data.
Well, the whole budget is projecting from January 1, 22 forward. It's, I mean, everything is an estimate. Best guess might be a little bit loose term, but it's an estimate. It's the best estimate you can do. I would be interested in knowing that 7 years, is that the last 7 calendar years,
Yes.
inclusive of 21?
It does not include 20.
Okay, so it's 20 back.
Correct. We can put whatever number you want here.
It's not what I want. I want an actual number.
This is based upon 7 years.
Right. And I don't mean to argue, but I don't know how we're going to have an actual number of what we expect to spend next year
This year,
in 22. I mean, this number represents what we're expecting to spend in 22.
our last 2
I
budgets
don't
have
know how
been
you're-
well over $1 million off. We need to be finding a way to get better. And just saying we're gonna borrow more money is not that answer.
I don't think we're going to borrow the money unless we need the money. We didn't do it in 2021.
Then it shouldn't be in the budget.
Well, if the projects got done in 2021, we'd have borrowed the money in 2021.
Correct.
Projects are going to get done in January, February, and March of 22. And that's when we're going to need to borrow the money that we projected in 21. Okay. I mean, if we get the invoice, I don't want to pay a bill in December that isn't done until February. I mean,
I totally agree with that. I'm not arguing that.
I guess to a certain extent, we started the budget in September. So in September, we had to use our best estimate as to what was going to happen by the end of the year. We gave it our best estimate in September, which we presented to you in December. There's a lot of things have changed from September to December. Unless we're going to redo a budget every single month, it's going to be really, really hard to have it exactly right every time.
That's part of why I think,
I mean,
I get what you're saying too, but we can go back, if we're gonna do it a year, it's September to September then, and then work on it in December.
There's still going to be a period you're going to have to estimate, because it's going to take them some time to get it put together. You know, they're not going to just get it all done in a month.
And I don't argue there should be items cut in the budget. I'm just not sure this is what the main focus should be,
No matter.
because it truly, a subdivision could go up tomorrow and we're not going to deny it.
That's right.
But based on that, there might be other areas that we really need to look at cutting in our budget if we're projecting this is how much it's going to be. That's kind of my,
where you need to focus, yes.
Yes.
I think there's other items that need to be cut in the budget. We're not doing that, but this, a subdivision, a farmer decides to sell 180 acres tomorrow and sell it off in tracts, and they're under REMC, we're not going to deny that. I think there's other items that we probably should look at more in cutting, if this is true, to eliminate that 3.2 million that was projected earlier. I mean, I know it was taken out and not in there now, but that's kind of my thought on it.
And we could, Suzanne, I mean, why don't we just take that out and we'll bring it to the board? If we have the need, I mean,
You mean the borrowing?
yeah. Again, these are just projections. I mean, we're not gonna,
Yeah, because this number could be 3 million or it could be 500,000.
if somebody has a better way of doing this right here and trying to estimate new
It
services.
says sent out email from Chris Galloway. I'm sorry if I didn't. Did I not, were we supposed to get an email from him?
No, you got it from me. It was
Okay,
sorry, it was a form.
no, that's fine. I want to make sure I wasn't missing.
We spend a lot of time in this area of the budget every year. It's like this number just. It's uncontrollable.
And if that borrowing provision is causing heartburn, then I'm not
Remove it.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to saying if/when with enough advance notice, Brett and Matt come back to us and say, hey, we're going to need to borrow money. I mean, if that's the approval then that would be based on actual information rather than here. But I thought that's kind of what we decided last week, but maybe that's fine. Neither here nor there. I mean, if that's the case, then
We'll know well.
take a budgeting provision out of there.
But I think that's what we discussed.
Yeah, well, which is fine. I'm not opposed to that. I mean, make that request to borrow and have the board act on it at a board meeting.
I have no problem with that at all.
But again, I think from my perspective, the information I have presented here, it's the best estimate you can come up with based on 7 years of experience. But none of us can predict, because if you can predict and tell me what that number is going to be at the end of 2022, you probably should be doing something other than what you're doing. Because I would suggest strongly that you're not going to find too many companies whose budget for 2020 or 2021 were spot on. Because if anybody could have foreseen what happened and predicted all of that, they're a lot better at budgeting than what the rest of the world is.
That's what we were arguing. I mean, we're within 1%.
Or what?
Within 1% on controllables, not this stuff, but on controllables, we're within 1%.
We're kind of going through the list. Five.
Did you get that? I sent the fleet schedule out. What's up there? Everybody see that?
I have 6 have already been addressed.
And a,
I guess 7, the additional position.
You got anything? You were going to share a little more with us?
yeah, we can.
What you, I mean,
Go back to one, we can pull out the $55,000. Because that's not actually quoted.
Yeah, you can. Chris usually asks for a little bit more for these danger trees, but honestly, if we get into a mess of danger trees, we can always just.
Right, so subtract out the 55,000 on 188.
Does everyone agree with that? I mean, I'm okay with that. So. Did everyone get that email? Because I know Dale did it first. Right away. We rounded up to that 1.7 for danger trees, but we can always bring it to you if we run into them.
So what do you have to have for contracts January 1?
Survey and ballot, payroll, and right away. I mean, on all these ones where we're talking about doing the quoting and that, I would just suggest we remove those out and we'll just bring them to you when we get close. As long as you support the ideas,
What I want to do is support what we need to do to get through January, but to have more time to look at this. So we need to support the right of way. I struggle with some of the survey and ballot, but definitely support payroll and right of way. How much do we lose if we don't sign up with survey and ballot?
I don't know, Jeff, but I can get it. Can't imagine it's a ton.
where's your heartburn?
Pardon?
Where's your heartburn with that?
I think we just need to talk as we're going at the election. because we did lock in some,
But I believe we're going to talk about it more. Sorry, I was talking to Clay.
No, you're fine. I wasn't, again, there's no agenda down for executive session, so I wasn't sure what we were talking about.
So just, I'm sorry, those 3 items are the ones that have to be by the end of the year.
Correct.
Okay.
And I don't know on surveying, but I know there's an upcharge after the end of the year, but I don't know what it is.
If I make a motion to support those 3 and you'll give us the amount for survey and ballot, I'll make a motion that we start with row, have payroll, and we extend the budget process into January.
Right away.
And payroll.
Minus the 55.
Correct.
The right away minus the 55 plus SBS.
Plus payroll.
Plus payroll.
Yeah.
55,000.
Could we also add these items that we know that we already supported? There's no reason to delay that stuff. Right? And that would, we'll list them. Okay. The, number 2, number 3,
Yes, 2 and 3, I completely agree. The 3 is, 2 is the back building, 3 is the gravel. 5 is, I agree with, yes, that's
page 2.
page 2.
Page 2.
So there's nothing on page 2. I'll second that.
So the right of way, payroll, back building, the gravel. What was the other one? 5? The one truck?
The truck.
Yes.
And SBS. I don't think you stated that.
Well, the only thing there is, again, is the rest of the board comfortable with SBS?
I am.
Then yes, I'll put it in because that's a majority.
We have a first. Second. Were there 6 items?
Yes.
That again, please, just to make sure.
Right, do you want to summarize them or do you want me to?
Just wondering if it'd be easier to say we approve the entire budget except for certain things.
No, I know. I am not-
I didn't know if that'd be a shorter list.
No.
Probably gonna.
That's what you're hoping.
So what's left? I think things we need to discuss in executive session.
No, but I mean,
Or what do you mean what's left?
so if we do this partial,
Payroll for 1 month.
if we do, you're only doing all this for a month.
Well, when I'm saying payroll, I'm not supporting all the projects within each department. I can support payroll for the year. I can't support the departmental budgets.
Payroll as is,
Yes.
without the additional positions.
Of what was in the budget.
Oh, no. No, I want to make sure we keep the lights on and everything moving, is what I'm trying to approve.
Oh, honestly, for that, even if you don't approve it, it's gonna move over. I'm saying payroll for the merit. The merits for our employees, which would start January 1st.
I can support the merit raises.
Okay.
I guess I'm just trying to figure out what we have left to act on. Because we already did the work plan a few months ago. Right?
Well, I would like to study these numbers a little bit. Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out what we've got to do yet. That's all.
So the question.
See, for me, items 7 and 8 are my 2 that I would not approve. I mean, I would personally, I think more information is needed.
But there were other
Well,
things in there like training and conferences for HR, Crystal's iView, not Connect now, but whatever it is, Mosaic or whatever,
None of that-
kinds of things.
that can all wait a month, correct?
I'm asking if we are still going to address those.
I would be glad to. I just think the last 2 weeks, with the number of revisions we've got, I would just like to get a complete new set with actual numbers. That's a whole different request on this motion. Do we need to clean that up?
We were gonna do a revision just to whenever you guys take action.
I'm gonna ask one more question. I'm not trying to be,
I'm trying, I am not good at multitasking. I'll admit that.
that's okay. Let's talk through this together and figure it out. So if we wait, because you, basically, when you say you want actual numbers, you want the projects that we have paid for and have completed January or December 31st. Is that correct?
And then
I won't put words in your mouth. Is that right?
That's part of it, yes.
Okay.
And then we'll have 12 months of data for,
But the other part of that is some of those, and I may be totally misspeaking, some of those projects are in queue now, are in process now. So it's just a timing issue of when we're going to get invoiced.
Correct.
but we have cash available.
But it's,
to pay those.
I think what you're asking for is an accrual type budget, right? Rather than a cash. I think we're all looking at the same thing, but we're looking at it a little bit different. That works in progress. It's just a matter of when that check's gonna get written.
Correct.
That's what's throwing these numbers off.
And how much those checks are gonna be written for.
We already
Because it should,
before there.
But my question is, if we know that we already approved those projects and we're paying for them, we know that we've already spent that money. That was in last year's budget, right?
right. But we don't know how much money's left.
Jeff, are you just looking for the data, not necessarily the approval and the numbers? Are you just looking for the data to compare?
Are you
Last year, this year.
cash at year end and how much cash
And then-
for 21's got to go out yet?
Basically information purposes,
Yes.
not necessarily projection of it, but just the information.
But this all goes back to borrowing, so just take.
If we wait till the 31st, okay? And then you say, here are the ones that I know that are in the queue or that are in the process that I know we're gonna get billed for. There's still gonna be some level of estimation there, correct or not?
Not a lot.
Because when will that be all cleared up? Like in March?
Probably there's,
I guess my point to you is, I don't know that you're gonna get the data that you really want in
it
January.
isn't going to be to the penny, but it'll be close.
It'll be close.
Much closer than what we were given.
Okay. I'm just trying to be clear what we're asking for.
But again, all of the projects, it's all timing. So it's all a cash flow timing thing. Who cares if it comes in at the mid next year compared to January? They're still all, we know what the cost of those projects are. We bid it. Like 6 different companies are required. All those projects are going to come through. What we don't know is the uncontrollable expenses. So that's why I was saying, just take the borrowing out.
I made the motion. It's seconded.
Any further discussion?
What's the motion say, Brian?
Okay.
Yeah,
Right away, less than $55,000.
to approve, sorry.
So they can sign the contracts. The approval of survey and ballots contract. Payroll as it is with the
Merit.
merit raise. The item 2, which is getting the quotes for the back building. Item 3, which is the money for the gravel.
North portion only.
Yes, the reduced portion. Thank you, because that was, and then the purchase of 1 truck.
I closed that the other week, so we'll have to wait.
So we don't even.
And
Yes.
okay.
Rewind the tape.
It's just purchase the truck only out of the 3 vehicles that were,
Didn't we add one more thing?
we had 6 things.
No, that's all I remember.
That's what we have. 6 items.
All right.
What he
Six
what he
items.
just said is what I have.
Yeah.
I know we had one other thing.
So we do have trainings and things like, I mean, there's going to be some smaller things throughout the budget that I know is going to happen for the beginning of January.
Just have to approve this.
I could, I mean, I can go back and look and see what those all are, but
You know, the few engines.
6 major.
Couple. All right. Yeah, Dan.
And I have no problem in this approach, but I also want to make sure that you have what you need to keep everything going without having to jump through 15 different hoops and saying, okay, today this came up, that came up.
I think there's gonna be a lot of that. I mean, this budget was put together over 3 months. There's a ton of stuff in there. I don't know how big and little they are until we get there.
Can we have a deadline for the final approval?
Once we get the new numbers, I'd like to review it.
But how much time are you gonna need to get that together, and how much time do you need to review it?
Do we want to have a special board meeting? Is that what you're asking?
I don't want this to keep dragging on and get 15 emails a week about, can this person go to this training? Can this person do that? I want to say, all right, by February 1st,
Oh, definitely.
that gives a month.
Yes, I'm good with that.
We asked what the new numbers.
So I received 3 different copies. I want to be able to throw these 3 away and have a copy that I can look at. That's the entire budget.
So you're wanting after we close 2021?
Yes.
2021 actuals,
Yes,
and then, so that I understand exactly. You want 2021 closed with actuals, then you want what the budget will be going forward into 2022.
because then you can take your salaries, time your merit raises.
Yes.
It should be very close.
And then you also want to know exactly what is to be spent on projects left from, that are hanging out for
The timing.
2021.
And I realize, yes.
And it'll be close.
It's going to affect the cash flow.
Okay. And I can't promise you.
No.
how much it'll hit, but I can tell you how much in total.
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. It'll be a little bit. It's not gonna.
These are all hard.
But you're gonna have some changes yet the rest of the year. Spend now. It's not gonna be a huge number, but it will change. I mean, it's gonna change some. It's not probably gonna be huge, but it's a little.
So it's really
We're like that, but our ending cash number, based off what we budgeted.
That's what I'm
I
working.
can't remember that.
Feeling good.
I mean, I get what he's asking. I mean, there's no way I get unless we get all our projects done by September, it's gonna be tough. Dead on the notes.
I'm just trying to.
Rest of us 20 years. Hurry up, get this game. Always. I mean, you'll
So
have.
let me go back to, I think there was a question earlier, the time frame. When did we?
1 month.
We said February 1st is the deadline
February 1st.
February 1st.
for the act. So that might mean that January board meeting.
Make the January board meeting.
So it'll probably be about, by the time we have everything finalized for actual numbers, close to the 15th to the 20th of January.
That's fine.
And Matt, if we have to have an extra meeting to take care of that before the February 1st deadline, okay, so be it.
Totally supported.
What about all the expenses that are baked into this budget for January? How do you guys gonna be done?
Excellent.
I mean, there's gonna be I'm telling you, there's gonna be a lot.
Can you get a list put together tomorrow?
We even know it. But you're basically saying that to operate the business, I need to go get every approval other than payroll. I mean,
That's what you needed and that's what you stated.
how about we do this? Do you guys, can we base it off of nothing new? And maybe this is what you're already saying. Nothing new from last year's ordinary expenses, nothing new. But if it's something that was budgeted for and
I don't want to make it complicated.
I don't think
We've made the motion. We want you to run the business. We just want more accurate numbers for the budget.
But to his point, I think we want to make certain. I think what you were saying, Brad, is that not approving any additional items other than these 6. Is that correct? For 2022? I think your concern is if we have.
I think there's training starting and
Software.
can we pay our software bills? I'm telling you, the amount of invoices that I'm gonna get in the next 3 weeks.
I understand. I don't
Ungodly.
think normal operating expenses, yeah. I don't think anyone's questioning that.
Okay.
No, not at all.
No.
Okay. So just normal operating stuff that was in last year's budget that are gonna be, that are in this year's budget, we're good with go forward. Okay.
I don't need to know that you gotta update the,
Thank you.
there's certain things that,
But the board is committing to getting this done.
Yes.
By February.
Yes.
yes.
All right.
So with this, we have a first and a
Do
second.
we need to add anything for, in the motion to make Brett?
I mean, as long as you're good with, I mean, when I first,
I didn't know if
Prior
you wanted, do you
operational.
need anything added into that motion?
I don't think so.
Required and normal operational expenses are approved.
Yes.
Required.
Do we, I guess my question is, do we actually need to add that to the motion or not?
Your call. I mean, good either way.
I'm good with it.
Required and normal operating expenses.
I get what you're asking for.
Okay, we're gonna read the motion one more time.
To approve the right of way minus the 55,000, SBS contract, payroll plus merit. The back building, which is number 2, number 3, the gravel lot, number 5, the vehicle, plus required and normal operating expenses.
I'm good with that.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. Any additional discussion? Carl?
She already did. She beat you.
First and a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say. Okay,
That was easy. We'll get there.
Okay.
No, I guess.
all right, Jason, do you have anything about future?
I don't really, I think most of this stuff happened about the strategic event.
Okay,
Unless they want to talk more about it, fine. It's,
anybody have any questions for Jason? Does it, sorry. Or continue, Hoosier? Doesn't sound like it.
okay.
Okay, so we did have the IEC annual event. I know that Clay and Jason and Brett were part of that as well. I was just going to comment on a couple of items that took place. One of them was was how one day influenced an entire career. He's a employee or was an employee of IC. He's recently retired, but he experienced as a result of an accident, he died like 3 different times when he was working for an Oklahoma facility, REMC. And he talked about how he endured through that process and then came on board, I think, to IC the last maybe 10 years. But it was very powerful experience to hear. And then I think it was the last session. The title of it was Influencing Safety, Working Better Together. Garrison Wynn presented. He was funny. It was really good to listen to. But one of the things that resonated with me, and we've heard it several times through the strategic event and all, it's like, retention of employees is very important. And, we have to make some commitments along the line there. So I don't know, Jason, Clay, you heard a couple as well. If you have any other comments to make.
The first speaker, I left the thing in the car. I can't remember what the first speaker was. That first day, he was good and just, he didn't put any fluff on anything. He was pretty blunt to the point, and I appreciated what he had to say.
Robert Rice, and he talked a little bit about the Texas situation from last year's.
And his comment was, one thing that really stuck with me from him was that, not saying that wind and solar aren't something to be looking at. He was concerned with how quick things are changed to that. They said, he was saying, we're going too fast. We got to slow down towards this. That's like, not saying that lending a, a resource, solar is not a resource, basically, the transition that they're trying to move. Fast. Appreciate it. That's honest.
Jason, do you have any additional comments on anything you heard? I don't think there's any additional training. I think, take a motion to adjourn. No one talking. Okay.
Reading an article before our meeting, we should be very happy we live in the United States instead of Europe. Their electric costs are 10 times what they are right now.
That's their sustained cost.
They're selling power next year at $350 a megawatt. So if we could run transmission lines from that like we got there at Merrim all the way over there, that'd be even better. We could really make that cheap.
Just lay them on the bottom of the ocean. You don't have to have any poles.
That's right. To Clay's point about moving quickly.
I didn't know you needed.
That's what we want to do.
No.